Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Tuesday Tea with Natalie. I am going to talk about a sensitive subject today, a divisive subject, a subject that gets people very defensive. I will be talking about abortion today. Um, and specifically, this video is for people who consider themselves pro life, um, anti abortion. And that probably seems like a weird thing. So I just wanted to throw that out up front. It's a beautiful Tuesday here in Cumming. I am drinking Tetley English black tea today. It's not quite chilly enough for me yet, mm, but it's getting there. So on to the topic at hand. Um, Abortion is a sensitive and hotly contested subject all over the world, but it dominates politics here in America. And it seems to be the one topic that can make otherwise good people forget their moral stance on every other issue and vote in direct uh, opposition to their moral stance just on this one issue. Uh, Full transparency, I am a pro choice candidate. I am endorsed by both NARAL Pro Choice Georgia and hashtag Vote Pro Choice. But if you're an anti abortion, pro life person, that doesn't mean you can't vote for me. And that's specifically what today's talk is about. And why voting for me is actually the better option for reducing abortion rates. And I bet that has you a little confused. And I am happy to explain what I mean by that and why that is. Though I am a firm believer in bodily autonomy and reproductive freedom, I would like to see the abortion rate and ratio drop. It is not an easy decision for anybody to make, and it's not a decision I want anyone to have to make. I would love to live in a world where abortion weren't necessary. And though I believe that it must remain a choice for anyone who becomes pregnant, regardless of the circumstances that led to the pregnancy, and I especially think it needs to be there for people who are facing medical issues or uh, became pregnant under traumatic circumstances. I think we can significantly reduce the number of abortions that happen in the United States. And if you are truly anti abortion, that should be your aim as well. It shouldn't just be about making it illegal, it should be about reducing and eliminating abortion. And simply making it against the law doesn't accomplish that. The data bears out that stricter laws on abortion does not reduce the abortion rate and ratio. So if your aim truly is to reduce abortions, voting for people solely because they would outlaw abortion does not does not accomplish that for you. Um, the steeper decline in rate and ratio happens during Democrat led times in the government. So, why does that happen? What is it that causes that to happen? Because if you are anti abortion, pro life, you that probably doesn't make any sense to you. Well, think about the types of policies that Democrats support and enact and implement: better reproductive health care education, better sex ed, more knowledge for people who are having sex, better reproductive health care access, access to birth control, access to family planning, access to other things related to sex and reproduction, better healthcare access and affordability all around, easier to get yourself to the doctor while you're pregnant, not worrying about a $30,000 hospital bill um, when you have to have an emergency C-section, not having to make a decision on how bad is my child's fever Can I afford to take them to the doctor if it's nothing? Um, Better parental leave, paid parental leave, mandated paid parental leave, better public schools, better education, affordable housing, affordable childcare. All of these policies not only help those who are live better lives, but it also significantly reduces the number of unplanned pregnancies and unwanted pregnancies. If you have better sex education and better access to reproductive health care, the chances of you getting pregnant when you didn't want to are significantly lower. If you have access to that and still get pregnant uh, unplanned, but you know that you have affordable housing and a livable wage and a good public education system and access to affordable health care, it's not as scary to bring somebody a life into the world because you know that they'll be cared for, especially if affordable childcare and paid parental leave is part of that equation. So all of these policies that myself and others fight for significantly reduce the abortion rate and abortion ratio. So some of you may not know what that means. Abortion rate is the number of abortions per uh, adult woman, and abortion ratio is number of abortions per pregnancy. And the reason you look at both numbers is because you have to know how many abortions are happening by people who got pregnant, but also are fewer people getting pregnant who didn't want to be, because that the number of women who aren't pregnant ties into that as well, because that means that there are people not getting pregnant who didn't want to be and therefore not having abortions. So both of those numbers matter. Um, so again, looking at those policies, looking at how the truly pro-life policies that support the lives of every American, that ensure livable wages, affordable housing, access to health care, these things not only actually improve the lives of everybody who has been born, it also reduces those unwanted and unplanned pregnancies, which reduce the abortion rate. So if your aim is truly to reduce the abortion rate to get to a point where abortion is not a necessity, you can't then vote for people who are opposed to all of those policies. Whoops, to all of those policies that I just knocked over my water. Sorry. Live video, anything can happen. Um, you can't then vote for those politicians who are opposed to all of those policies that actually contribute to reducing it. It's great to say, oh, I'd make it illegal. Okay, but then what? That isn't enough. And what happens again is a woman who's having medical complications, can she not then have her life saved? For the example of what finally pushed Ireland um, to make abortion legal, a woman in Ireland was pregnant and had a miscarriage, but um, it wasn't a full miscarriage. So even though there was no viable fetus anymore, she was not pregnant. She still had uh, remnants of the pregnancy in her body, and because abortion was illegal, and because of the state of her not full miscarriage, they would not give her a DNC, and she got sepsis and died. And I cannot live with myself knowing there's a law that would allow that to happen. Um, that is not that's not acceptable to me. Uh, so often the rights of an embryo or fetus are talked about, and the rights of the person who is pregnant are completely ignored. Um, in the United States, you cannot harvest organs from a human being if they have not um, okayed it, if they have not given their permission before they died. So if I get drunk and drive and smash into a car and seriously injure everybody in the car and kill myself, but I have plenty of viable organs that would save the lives of everybody in that car who it is my fault that they are near death. If I have not signed up to be an organ donor, they can't take my organs to save those people. So by talking about an embryo, which has no brain waves, no heartbeat, as having more rights than the pregnant person, you're actually saying dead bodies deserve more rights to bodily autonomy than pregnant people do. And that to me just doesn't doesn't sit right. Um, so something else in talking what I was talking about with those policies, uh, to me, I will admit that I personally have some difficulty rectifying people who call themselves pro-life and espouse Christian values who would then vote for people who don't vote for policies that assist their fellow man, that allow children to be kept in cages, that allow 200,000 Americans to die, that let children starve or a man die because he couldn't afford his insulin. I personally struggle with um, with that, which is why I tend to use anti-abortion instead of pro-life because I have a hard time reconciling someone saying they're pro-life but then voting against all of those Christian values. Um, and if there's a person and they have 10 issues and 9 out of those 10 issues go against your morals and values, and the other person 9 of the 10 issues goes for it, and where you differ is abortion, I don't understand the justification in ignoring your morals on those other issues, especially when, as I have just illustrated, voting for that other person who isn't for outlawing abortion, but is for programs that significantly reduce abortion numbers. Like I said, I have a hard time reconciling the disconnect that I see there. And abortion gets people defensive, it gets people divisive, and I'm sure a lot of you are a little upset about what I just said and feel a little attacked. And I assure you that's not my purpose here. I'm not trying to attack you, but I'm trying to get you to think about what your real goal is. Because if it really is helping your fellow man, seeing each life as precious, then there's a clear answer to the types of policies that you should be supporting and the type of candidate that you should be voting into office. And that's all that I'm trying to illustrate here. Um, and I know that, it's hard with a lot of the misinformation and lies and fear mongering that anti-abortion activists put out there. There's a lot of things that like, oh, if you vote for somebody who's pro-choice, then all these terrible things are going to happen. For example, my opponent has on her website, under platforms and issues about being pro-life, something about born alive abortions, which are not a thing. And it is both laughable and infuriating that my opponent is pushing this, quite frankly, and you'll excuse me, but I'm really mad about it, this bullshit to try and retain power. Nobody is advocating that babies be born alive and then killed. That is murder. That is already the law. It has been the law of the land for ages, and it was reinforced as the law of the land in 2002 when there was a specific bill about babies being born at any point in pregnancy and the measures that need to be taken afterwards to promote well-being and life, especially for preemies. Nobody, nobody is advocating that women be allowed to give birth, fully give birth at the end of their pregnancy and walk away from the baby and let it die. Nobody. The only people who are saying that's a thing are anti abortion people who are trying to scare other people. There is nobody actually advocating for this. Lies. Absolute full lies. And if somebody would lie to you about that, what else are they going to lie to you about? Probably a lot of things. In my opinion, there are a couple of different types of politicians, but uh, there's two types of people who run for office. There's the type who run for office because they like the feeling of power that comes from it, and they like to be able to help their buddies and help their buddies' businesses and help their own interests and help people that are just like them. And then there's the type of candidate who isn't really a politician and just sees an opportunity to do as much good as they can and wants to help as many people as they can and implement policies that will uplift as many members of the community as possible. I believe in the race for District 24. Both of those types of candidates exist. And obviously, I believe that I am one type and my opponent is another type. And I I think that my opponent's voting record is a clear indication of her lack of concern for the majority of First Cynthians and Georgians. And I'm a first time candidate, so I don't have a voting record. And it's a lot to ask a newcomer that you don't know to trust me that it isn't about power for me and helping out buddies, but I don't have any powerful buddies. I don't have any buddies that own businesses. You know, my friends are all working class people who are mostly living paycheck to paycheck and just trying to do the best that they can for themselves and their families and their kids. And that's who I'm here to help, the working families of Forsyth and of Georgia. And I just want to do everything I can. And I'm not even trying to be a career politician. I believe in term limits. I'm not trying to be in the Georgia State Legislature for the rest of my life. I want to get in and accomplish a lot of great things to help the people of Forsyth and Georgia. And then I want to move on to another chapter in my life and in helping people in a different way. So, and I think that's important because the reason I bring this up is, again, the types of things that she's pointing out and the claims that she's making are are absurd. And I understand how difficult it can be to um, to try and wrap your head around all of this, to think that as a pro-life, as a person who considers themselves pro-life, that me as a pro-choice candidate, that we're not at odds. But we're not at odds. Voting for me would reduce abortions far more than returning my opponent to the state house. Yes, we do differ in that you believe that abortion should be fully outlawed, and I don't agree with that. But if your end goal is truly to reduce the abortion rate and the abortion ratio, then voting for me accomplishes that because I support those policies that actually lead to those reductions in those rates. I'm going to share a few articles in the comments here, and those articles are mostly from evangelical and Christian self proclaimed pro life people who make the case that I did that voting Democrat, especially in this election, does more towards the aims of reducing abortion rates than voting the other way. So I'll share those articles in the comments. And I understand how difficult it can be to be faced with a new idea, and you people get defensive. We have, in this country, um, political ideologies get wrapped up in identities, and it can be hard to separate yourself from that and take a step back and really listen to a new idea. And that's all I'm asking you to do here is I'm asking you to take a breath, uh, remove any defensiveness or anger that you might be feeling for a moment, and just explore a new way of looking at the issue and ask yourself what your actual end goal is and what the best way to, based on the data, based on actual real life data and statistics, what the best way to achieve those goals are. Um, if you are already pro choice, I hope that you will use some of the points that I have made in this video as talking points for other conversations that you might have and help push people towards a new way of thinking about the issue and thinking about where we stand um, on it. Because I'd also like to point out that pro-choice does not mean we want to force every woman to have an abortion. That's patently ridiculous. Um, and pro-choice means exactly that: the right for a person to make the best choice for their body and their life that nobody else should be involved in except their partner or their doctor or another trusted friend or family member. And it's not on me to tell someone what the right thing for them to do is. Um, there's plenty of people who are pro-choice who would never choose abortion for themselves. And that to me is a true indicator of what pro-choice is. It's about the right to choose. Um, so, as I said, it's a divisive topic that gets people very defensive. And I am pro-choice, but to me, that doesn't mean that we aren't working towards similar things, which is a reduction in unwanted and unplanned pregnancies. Because, like I said, I don't want anyone to have to make that choice. It's heartbreaking and it's heart-wrenching. Um, Going back to the misinformation and lies, not just the born alive thing, but also the abortions later in pregnancy. Late term means after 40 weeks. So no to that, but also later in pregnancy past the point of viability. Nobody is getting an elective abortion at that point. An elective abortion is one where there's no medical necessity. It's just the person has decided they don't want to be pregnant anymore. That is not happening after viability. That is not happening in the third trimester for anybody. Make it to the third trimester, you are carrying that baby. And if an abortion is happening, it's because you are at risk, or the baby is at risk, or has already started into decline, and it's a medical necessity. And it is heartbreaking and it is terrible, and nobody wants it, but it is often necessary to save a life. And as a mother, if I were to become pregnant again and have a medical issue where staying pregnant meant that not only the baby but I would die, then how is that fair to my existing children if I am not able to save my life by terminating the pregnancy? So I have to die and my parents have to my children have to lose their mother for a life that hasn't even begun yet, and I can't reconcile that. Um, so I appreciate you tuning in, and if you have any questions, I am always available. Well, not always. You can't call me at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to answer then, but My phone number is 470-239-0675. My email address is natalie.bucsko@votenatalie.com. And I want to hear from you. I want to have a conversation with you. If you are on the opposite side of this issue from me, let's talk about it. Let's have a dialogue. Let's see where we can connect and meet. Because that's the other thing. I don't feel that the divisiveness that has happened is beneficial or healthy, and I want to unite the county and the state, and I want to truly serve every constituent of Forsyth County and not just the ones who are like me. Um, so it is um, it's a difficult topic, and I appreciate you giving me the time and listening and opening the mind. And for those of you who share my ideals, I appreciate you being here and giving a listen. And like I said, I hope I gave you some material that you can use to. Oh, we just saw Guinevere run by. I hope I gave you some material that you can use when having these conversations yourself. Um, it is Tuesday, October 6th, and because I am live and because things are happening, I do feel it would be remiss if I didn't change subject here for a minute and talk about the tweet that the president sent not too long ago, stating that he will not allow talks of another stimulus to happen until after he wins the election. I think there's a lot of problems inherently in that statement. I think that he is again failing to lead the country in the middle of the worst crisis we've had in 100 years. And I think that he is actively harming a large portion of the country by not allowing these talks to happen. Um, Many of you probably not surprised by that stance, but because it is something that's breaking news, I did feel I should probably add something in about that. As always, I appreciate you being here. This has been Tuesday Tea with Natalie. I will be back next week with another live episode. Same Nat time, same Nat channel, and I hope I will see you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.